Hello, everybody. Today I'm speaking directly to high school trumpet players in Texas who are about to start practicing the All-State Jazz materials for the 2019 school year. So the reason I'm doing this video is because last year I got a comment from somebody who said, "Oh, I'm so glad I saw this video after I learned the music." And I didn't say anything about it last year, but that is horrible. That's a horrible way to approach the music, is to learn it fast. That's the first mistake. But also to learn it before you've listened. So that brings into question a few things. We don't care as judges if you can play the music. Keep that in mind. It's not if you can play the music, because that's what you're saying when you say, "Oh, I learned it so fast, I learned it before the video even came out." You're saying, "Oh, I can play the music." Well, I'll tell you what. This reminds me of when I was first becoming a pro, and I was reading everything I could about becoming a pro trumpet player, right? And there was a book that I read that said, "It doesn't matter how good you are, that's not what makes you a pro." And he said, "Being a great player is just assumed. What you do to become a pro is over and above how well you play." Now, the same thing for all-state and all-region jazz. It's not about can you play the music. It's about how well do you play the music. Now, I don't know if that person who left that comment was, if he made region or if he didn't make region, if he made state or if he didn't make state. That's not really the point. Maybe he was good enough and that all worked out for him. But I can promise you that if he had done these other things first before he learned the music, he would have played it better. Okay, so let that sink in. I'm not saying he didn't make region. I'm not saying he didn't make state. I don't know. And if you're the one, if you know who you are, and I'm speaking about you and you know it, don't take it personally. I'm just using you as an example. Because maybe you did make all state. I don't know. But I do know this. If you learn music quickly, especially if you have 3 or 4 more months to learn it, if you learn music quickly, you will not play it as well as you could when it's time to audition. So let's talk about quickly, what are you supposed to do when the music comes out? The number one thing, first step, is to study the music. Study it first. And I don't mean a brief overlook. Oh, yeah. Not like that. Study the music. Look for things that you may miss when you're practicing. The top of the list, look at the key signatures. And basically what you're looking for is skills that you don't have already. It's better to learn the skill first and then practice the music than it is to dive in there, discover in the process that there's something there that you don't know how to do, and then try to learn the skill while you're learning the music. That's not a very good recipe. That's a recipe for failure, not a recipe for success. All right? So you want to go through there. Key signature. You want to know the style. For example, this year, the second etude is in more of a New Orleans style. What do you know about New Orleans style? If you don't know anything about New Orleans style, it's time for you to go listen to some New Orleans music before you practice the music. All right? Get the skill first, then practice the music. Same thing with the rhythms. If there's rhythms in there that you're not comfortable with, that you haven't been exposed to before, learn those rhythms first before you practice the music. Same thing applies to effects. You want to make sure that you can do all the effects that are in there. This year, I think we cover the whole gamut. We've got falls, we've got some scoops, we have bends, we have turns, some shakes. If you can't do all those, do those first. Learn how to do that first and then work on the music. And the most important thing you want to look for when you first start is the accidentals that carry through the measure. You know, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. So the biggest mistake that I hear when I judge is the sloppiness. The second biggest is Ricky Tick swing. And maybe we'll have a video talking about how to swing. But we don't like Ricky Tick. Ricky Tick is when the downbeats are short. Da 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 da. We don't like that. That's a style of jazz that we don't use anymore in the educational world. We still play that way on some gigs. We wouldn't call those jazz gigs though. But there is a need for that kind of playing. So if you can already do that, don't think that it's wrong. It's just not appropriate for what we're doing. So get rid of the Ricky Tick. Anyway, so getting back on the topic, along with this visual studying, you should also do some listening. And that's why I make the videos. I'm going to do it again this year. I hope to have the videos up before the ITG conference in San Antonio. I hope to have all three of those videos up before I leave. And so the idea, and this is getting back to the original point why I'm making this video, the idea of those videos is that you listen to them first. It's not a contest to see who can learn the music before the video comes out. That's bizarre. Listen to the music over and over and over again. And you know why? The reason why we listen to the music before we practice it is so that when we hear our own mistakes, we recognize them immediately, and you don't continue to keep playing that way. The more you listen to the music, the more easily you will recognize your mistakes when you make them. That's the purpose of this kind of listening. All right? And so someone who learns the music first before they listen is there's an old saying, don't put the cart before the horse. You're getting the sequence backwards. Wait. Don't be so impatient. And also, you know, the whole thing about, I'm so glad I learned it before the music came out, is that I can't imagine how that could not be a pride thing. Right? So you're proud that you did it yourself. But what price did you pay for that? What did you pay for that in the context of your own performance? How much better could your performance have been? So yeah, these videos are going to come out soon. This year, I'm going to also have some instructional videos about how to practice the Etudes. So you might want to be looking for that. And now that I've thought about it, maybe I'll have a swing video as well, so we could talk about how to swing, how to do good swing. So yeah, we want to, at this point, don't be so eager to get going. Slow down your process. Be absolutely sure you're playing the music correctly. Now, that reminds me, when we practice, we should be using a proven practice technique to practice the music. Okay, I tell my students, the worst kind of practice. And I ask them first before I tell them this. If they're a new student and they come in, and I'll ask them, well, if I gave you this piece of music to practice, how would you practice it? Describe to me what your practice process looks like. And almost always they say, well, I go through the music and I try to get it right. Some of them will go as far, take it to the next level and say, well, I'll go through the music, I'll try to get it right, and if I get something wrong, I'll slow it down. That's only 1 degree higher from the worst way to practice. The worst way to practice is to just try to get it right. That is by far the worst way to practice. I'm going to say it again so that it sinks in. The worst way to practice is to just try to get it right. You want to use a proven practice technique to practice the music. Let that sink in. And if you don't know any practice techniques, learn some practice techniques. Let that set in, okay? You want that to saturate your mind right now. Don't just try to play the music, okay? Now, the practice technique that I use, not just me, but with my students, is called working backwards. And the guy who is attributed to having invented the working backwards method, Theodore Leschetizky, is also credited to a quote that I love. He says, think 10 times and then play the music. In other words, before you start practicing, think 10 times about the music. Be that certain that you're doing it right. And the listening to the music is a very big part of making sure you're doing it right. Because, like I said earlier, if you've heard the music enough times, when you're practicing, if you're paying attention, and you hear something that doesn't sound like what it sounds like on the recording, you can notice it right away and stop and fix it. Now, you know why that's so important? There was a study done, and maybe I'll try to find it so I can link to it down below. I should have saved that. I'll have to look for it. But there was a study done with piano students at a university, and they put, if I remember right, they put cameras in the rooms. They gave them all, they were about the same level of student. They gave them all the same piece of music, and they gave them all, I think, about the same amount of practice time. And after they came out of the practice time, they were tested on how well they played the music. And then they compared how well the music was played with their practice techniques. And it turns out that they found a correlation between the students who found their mistakes soonest and the students who did best. In other words, if you recognize your mistakes immediately, that means that gives you an opportunity to do something about it now. The ones who did not recognize that they had made a mistake kept playing the music wrong, and then went to the last part of the study where they played the music and did not play it as well as the people who recognize the mistakes right away. Now, think about how that applies to competitions. If you jump in there and just practice, not really being aware of whether you're playing the music right or not, how well is that going to work for you? Your only hope at that point is that everybody else is going to be as bad as you. And maybe that's going to happen, especially at the region level for the jazz stuff. A lot of people don't take the jazz stuff seriously. So yeah, that doesn't mean you're not going to win. I can tell you this though, the same thing with the classical stuff, you're not going to win. If you learn mistakes into your music, there's not enough time from the time the classical music comes out until the time you have to audition. There's not enough time to fix mistakes. You have to get them right first. And it's the same thing for the jazz stuff, except the competition isn't so fierce on the jazz side. So, so yes, it's extremely valuable to listen to those recordings first. That's why I put them up. Originally, I put those recordings on YouTube so that my students could listen to them. And I didn't mind if other students listened to them, but it wasn't there for you, it was there for my students. But the more I get into this YouTube stuff, the more willing I am to share with you some of the other stuff that I share with my students. So think about that. Listen to the etudes first before you practice them. I'm going to leave it up to you how much. I know how much I tell my students, but I'm not going to tell you how many times to listen to it. If you want to know that, you'll have to take some lessons with me, okay? Or maybe get your band directors to bring me on as a clinician to do a master class or something. I wouldn't mind doing that and sharing with you those numbers. But yes, right now, when the music comes out, I want you to listen to the etudes before you practice them. And during that time, between the time that the music comes out and you get through the listening part, be studying the music for anything that might cause you to make mistakes. All right? Let that sink in. So the music comes out on the 15th, and shortly after that, we'll have some videos up. You might want to encourage your band directors to buy the music right away. I won't post it here. That's another thing, by the way. Last year, people asked me to send them the music. The answer is no. I will not send you the music. And the reason for that is that this money goes towards something. You know what? Even if it didn't, I still wouldn't send it to you. That's not right. You don't just get music because you want it. Even if the person who was selling the music was just doing it to make money for himself, I still wouldn't give the music to you. Now, maybe other people out there are going to give you the music. It's not right, but that's their choice. Your band director needs to buy the music. That money goes towards funds that make all of this possible. The money for the music goes towards funds in the trumpet. What is it? Not trumpet. The Texas Jazz Educators Association. That money goes to them, to that organization. And then when you say, "Can you just send me the etudes, please?" You're saying, I don't want them to have that money. So as far as I'm concerned, if that's how you are, you shouldn't even be getting, if you don't want this to thrive, then you shouldn't be participating. That's how I feel about it. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but that's how I feel about it. Don't ask me for the music. I'm not going to give it to you. All right? Okay, so that's it for today. I just wanted to make sure that the timing of this video was right. I want as many people to listen to this as possible before the music comes out, so that there's less people out there trying to just prove something by learning the music before the videos come out. You should be stretching that process out. It should take you months to learn this music. Not because it's hard, but because you want to do well. You want to win. You don't win by doing it fast. You win by doing it right. And doing it right takes time. All right, so that's it. If you have any questions about this, go ahead and ask down below. And if you want to be made, if you want notices about when these other videos come out, you might be a good idea to subscribe up here. And other than that, I'll see you on the next video. God bless you.